I think that we're living through the Bitcoin gold rush era. And I think the Bitcoin gold rush era started January 2024. And I think it runs until around November 2034. So it's about 10 years. And I'll tell you why. Because 93.5% or so of the Bitcoin was mined at the beginning of this period. But in November of 2034, 99% of all the Bitcoin that will ever be issued will have been issued. The difference between the winners and the losers is the winners buy something valuable and the losers are afraid, right? The losers are afraid to buy the valuable thing because it's too expensive.
Michael Saylor sees Bitcoin in 2024 as the start of a Bitcoin gold rush, a decade-long opportunity filled with skepticism and potential for wealth. He compares Bitcoin to a digital fortress, immune to the economic collapses and inflation that have historically undermined traditional currencies. This digital asset stands out for its resilience and growth potential, offering a modern sanctuary for wealth without the depreciation and external risks tied to physical assets or traditional savings methods. Drawing from history and his firm belief in technological evolution, Saylor's investment in Bitcoin through his company, Microstrategy, showcases his confidence in its future. He advocates for Bitcoin as more than just a cryptocurrency. It's a movement set to redefine our understanding of wealth, security, and freedom in the digital era. For Saylor, investing in Bitcoin is not merely a financial decision, but a step towards participating in the digital future. Now we'll show you more clips of Saylor, but first subscribe and turn on notifications, and check our Bybit promo where you can get free $20 just for creating an account, so you can start accumulating Bitcoin today. Enjoy the video.
As I'd said, the real key is to understand what is Bitcoin's use case. It's digital capital. Well, how big is that? $400 trillion? Right? How much capital is locked up in real estate, equity, currency, bonds, collectibles, trophy assets, precious metals in the year 2024? Right? There's probably half the value of most residential real estate is the monetary premium. It's the capital. So, how do you know this? I give you a little test. Go to Miami Beach, go up and down the beach, and then count the number of lights on in a condo building on the beach. Or go to Monaco and count the number of lights on. And what you'll find is that 80 to 90% of all of the condos don't have lights on at night. So people have huge amounts of capital tied up in these idle assets. And there's a lot of reasons for them, but one reason is because they feel like their money is safer there. So in the 20th century, people basically bought sports teams. Ask yourself, what do rich people own when they get rich? They bought sports teams, they bought real estate, they bought companies, they bought land, they bought timber rights, they bought oil rights, they bought gold, they bought, bonds. They just bought stuff. Why? Because they knew if they left their money in the bank, it was going to dwindle away. Buy anything. They buy Picassos, they buy art, right? They buy stuff. So there was never a perfect digital capital. There was never a digital instrument where I could, if you were a rich Russian and you had a choice between buying a bunch of real estate in Moscow or buying Bitcoin, well, with ex post facto hindsight, looking back for the last 30 years, okay, now let's play that out and you're a rich Nigerian. Now you're a rich, Turk. Now you're rich in Lebanon, right? And we don't have to be rich. Anybody with any amount of money anywhere in the world, right? You've got the last 100 years of history. You live in Germany in 1930. What do you want, a building or Bitcoin? You live in Argentina. What do you want? You want to own land? You want to own a building? You want a company? You want Bitcoin? The currency is going to collapse 5 times in 140 years. 5 times, right? So Bitcoin represents digital property. What's the value of digital property? Hundreds of trillions of dollars. Is it overvalued? Not yet. It's $1 trillion right now. So when it's 100 times more valuable than it is right now, will it be overvalued? Not likely. It's probably still going to be appreciating faster than every other thing you can buy. Why? Because it's better than every other thing you can buy. Show me a hotel you can put in your pocket and teleport. Right? $1 billion of gold is like 3,000 pounds, right? How are you going to move that, right? Right? Give me a company that's going to last through the next 3 CEOs, right? Do you know who the third CEO will be after the one that runs the company now? And do you trust that person? Right? The S&P 500, haven't we established there's a 99% failure rate? These are the winners. There's a 99% failure rate to generate shareholder value amongst the 500 best companies in the world. Now, if there's a 99% failure rate amongst the 500 best companies in the world, then what's the failure rate amongst the 100 million companies in the world? The dollar's lost 99.8% of its value in 100 years. Maybe 99.9% of its value. You could debate whether it's 99.8 or 99.9% of its value. Every other currency in every other country lost 100%. So, if you're sitting around wondering, is Bitcoin overvalued? The question is overvalued versus what? Right? You're going to buy something, right? You're owning something in lieu of Bitcoin. What is that something which is better? Right? That's the real question. Because not selling is buying, but not buying is selling, right? And you've basically got a certain amount of economic energy. It's deployed somewhere. Right? And the question is, what are you invested in that you think is better? And I think everybody's got to answer that question themselves, but, right? So there are a lot of risks no matter what you invest in. If you think you don't have risk, you're simply ignorant of the risks you're currently embracing. And I think that once someone understands fully all their range of risk, then your conclusion is, no, it's not too late to buy Bitcoin.
In today's show, Saylor highlights the Bitcoin Halving Event. This halving is estimated to take place on April 19, 2024, and will reduce the block reward to 3.1125 BTC. What is Bitcoin halving? Miners compete to add the next block by solving a complex mathematical problem using specialized hardware, producing a random 64-character output known as a hash, finishing the process and locking the block so it can't be changed. By completing these blocks, miners receive Bitcoin. Bitcoin halving occurs as part of the protocol's design and is a key mechanism to control the supply of new Bitcoin entering circulation. Why does Bitcoin halving matter? Usually, there is an increase in volatility for Bitcoin following the halving. The supply of available Bitcoin decreases, which raises the value of Bitcoin yet to be mined, making it a more attractive asset to investors. There are other elements to consider when analyzing Bitcoin's post-halving booms: more press coverage of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, a fascination with the digital asset's anonymity, a gradual increase in real-world use cases for the currency. Now we'll show you more clips of Saylor, but first subscribe and turn on notifications, and check our pinned comment for some massive sign-up bonuses. Enjoy the video.
We started out the year with the ETF approval, and that was a big milestone. I think that the success of the ETFs is another milestone. I think that the halving in April will be a third positive milestone. I think those 3 things are going to drive momentum, and I think all the marketing wars between the Wall Street firms is going to be positive, and I think the assets being normalized throughout the mainstream investment community, and so I think it'll just keep generating momentum from here. I think it's it's also worthwhile, I think, to make one point. I think that we're living through the Bitcoin gold rush era. And I think the Bitcoin gold rush era started January 2024. And I think it runs until around November 2034. So it's about 10 years. And I'll tell you why. Because 93.5% or so of the Bitcoin was mined at the beginning of this period. But in November of 2034, 99% of all the Bitcoin that will ever be issued will have been issued. And so that halving is very symbolic. People talk about Bitcoin, issuance coming out over the next 100 years, all the way till 2140. But the truth of the matter is, the last 100 years, you're only getting 1%. So think, and actually, of that 1%, 90 basis points of it is coming in the 12 years that follow 2034, and then it's 10 basis points, 1/10%. But practically speaking, all of the block rewards are de minimis starting in 2034. It's 1% over 100 years may as well be nothing, because the daily volatility and the daily trading volume is going to render that to be somewhere between third order, fourth order, fifth order of magnitude. So that being the case, really, this 10 years is your best chance to get Bitcoin, right? This is the gold rush, because this is the period where there's still a lot of FUD. There's still a lot of uncertainty. People still aren't sure. They don't understand digital energy. They don't understand digital capital. They don't understand digital property. There's a lot of debate in the community. Is Bitcoin a currency, or is it a property? Or, there's massive debate. And a lot of people say, well, it's a currency, and since it's not legal tender, or because it doesn't move fast enough, or I can't buy coffee with it, it's not a good currency. So there's a lot of confusion in the crypto community. There's a lot of mainstream regulators. They think it's currency. So you see bankers say, oh, it's a currency, but it's not a good currency because I can't buy coffee with it. I can't buy things online with it, and it's too volatile. And they think that's a criticism. And so they criticize it. And then people that think that they know what they're talking about, they hear some famous person say, well, Bitcoin is not a good currency, and or the government will ban it, or it's not as good as the dollar or something. And so they get afraid.
What do you think of today's show? Do you agree with Michael Saylor? Is it too late to buy Bitcoin at all-time highs? Post in the comments section down below if you're accumulating at these levels, subscribe if you have not yet done so, and peep this video right here. I see you on the other side.